Okay, so this example is from exercise 8. Exercise 8 of worksheet. Okay, that's 1.2. So first, we'll solve the problem by completing the square. Then after that, I'll solve the same problem by using the quadratic formula. Okay? And I need you to be aware that both methods are in your multiple choice test. You have to know how to solve a quadratic equation using both methods. Alright, so that's the equation. Now we are going to solve it by completing the square first. So if you want to solve this by completing the square, first thing you need to make the coefficient of x equal to 1. You need to make the coefficient of x equal to 1. Now there are two ways of doing it, but I prefer to divide every term by 2. Another way would be to take out 2 as a common factor, but that would cause problems. Okay, from my experience, it would cause problems. So first thing, we divide each term by 2. So this becomes 2x squared over 2 plus 3x over 2 minus 8 over 2. That's equal to 0. Okay, and then you end up having x squared plus 3 over 2x minus 4 equal to 0. Okay, I hope you are following. So, if I want to complete the square, I told you about the concept of a perfect square trinomial last week, or probably this week as well, right? So, that's the first step. Then the next step is to take this constant to the right. Okay, we want the terms in x to be left on their own on the left hand side. So this becomes x squared plus 3 over 2x is equal to positive 4. Okay, now I have a binomial on the left hand side which is in terms of x. X squared plus 3 over 2x. The next thing now is to add a term, okay, in front of that 3 over 2x, such that we can end up having a perfect square trinomial. To determine that term, we need to find half of the coefficient of x. We need to determine half of the coefficient of x. So the coefficient of x is 3 over 2. So in the 3 over 2 divided by 2 over 1, that will give you 3 over 2 times 1 over 2, and you get 3 over 4. So half of 3 over 2 is 3 over 4. Okay? If you can't do it mentally like me, use your calculator. Whatever coefficient of x, we divide it by 2. That's all, with your calculator. Don't try to do it like me, because my brain is sharpened over many years of doing maths. Okay? Alright, so from here now, I need to add the square of half of the coefficient of x, which is 3 over 4, and also subtract it. So it will be x squared plus 3 over 2x plus 3 over 4 all squared minus 3 over 4 all squared. This will be equal to 4. Take note, this part gives you what? It gives you what? A 0. Okay? So it's more like I didn't add anything, but I did. And that technique is very important because it will help us to create the perfect square trinomial. So what I have to do now, remove brackets. I'm going to move on to the next page. I'm going to remove brackets. So if I remove brackets, I'll get x squared plus 3 over 2x plus 9 over 16x minus, sorry, not over 16x, it's just 9 over 16. 9 over 16 minus 9 over 16, that's equal to a 4. Okay? Now, your perfect square trinomial, by now you should know how they look like. So here, all you have to do is take this minus 9 over 6 to the right. Okay? Because the second sign in the perfect square trinomial here, it's always a plus. It's always a plus. Okay? The first one here can be a minus or a plus, but the second one is always a plus. So among these two, among this one and that one, the one that you have to take to the right hand side is the negative one. Okay? Always take the negative one to the right. So this becomes x squared plus 3 over 2x plus 9 over 16 is equal to 4 plus 9 over 16. Okay? Now the beauty about this is to factorize this trinomial on the left should not cause your heartbeat to increase. It's so easy. You find the square root of the first term, that's x. Okay? That's x. So in your bracket, you're going to end up having x here. There is a plus here in the first sign. So the first sign in the trinomial is an addition sign. So you put a plus. So whatever sign is here, whatever sign is there, you also put it in your binomial effect. Okay? If there was a minus there, then you put a minus in the binomial effect. To get the second term in the binomial factor here, it's so simple. Find the square root of 9 over 16. You already have it. It's equivalent to half of the coefficient of x, and it's that 3 over 4. So there's no thinking involved. There's no thinking. Okay? And a question like this should not intimidate you, but you have to intimidate the question yourself. Okay? So this will be 3 over 4, all squared. Okay? So that's equal to, if I simplify here, your knowledge of fractions is very important. To simplify that 4 plus 9 over 16, I'll multiply the 16 by 4 and I'll get 64, plus 9, I'll get 73. So on the right, I'll have 73 over 16. So when you get a question on completing the square, you need to be smiling because it's not difficult. Your heartbeat should not increase because you saw a question saying complete the square. No. Yes.
So when you added the plus 3 over 4 squared and minus 2 over 4 squared, I understand that you added, but like can you just say plus 2 over 4 minus 2 over 4? Because does it have to be
It has to be squared.
So that they multiply.
It has to be squared because that's where the concept of completing the square comes in. If you don't square half of the coefficient of x, it means you are not completing the square. And you won't get the perfect square trinomial. Okay, so we're here now. Okay, we're here now. From now on, you see a person on completing the square, you should be smiling. Okay, and you have to intimidate the person to a point where if the person would talk, you would say, please don't solve me. Right, so this becomes x plus 3 over 4 squared. Then you find the square root on the left hand side. You also find the square root on the right hand side. But you need to be aware that you are dealing with a quadratic equation. Therefore, the number on the right hand side must be a plus or a minus. There are two of them. One is negative, the other one is positive. Once you get here, on the left hand side, you end up having x plus 3 over 4 is equal to. Now that one I can write as plus or minus the square root of 73 over 4 because 16 is a perfect square. Okay, 73 is not a perfect square. Okay, then next step, I'll take the positive 3 over 4 to the right. If I do that, I'll get x equal to minus 3 over 4 plus or minus the square root of 73 over 4. Now, I want to leave my answer, okay, as a decimal. Okay, but sometimes you can also be requested to leave your answer in set form. That's why we did set. So this is going to be x equal to minus 3 over 4 plus the square root of 73 over 4, or x equal to minus 3 over 4 minus the square root of 73 over 4, like that. Yes. Yes, I'm going to convert to decimal. You will help me to do it with your calculator. Now, I want you to be aware that I can write this number and that one as x equal to minus 3 plus the square root of 73 all over 4. Also, this one can be as minus 3 minus the square root of 73 all over 4. So can you use your calculator quickly to give me the answer to 2 decimal places? So if the question was saying leave your answer in set form, you would stop here. You would stop there. Okay? But I want to go further. What would be the answer? 1,386. So that would be 39 to 2 decimal places. Okay? And the second one would be negative what? Negative 2, negative 2,89. And then quadratic. Okay? So I use the method of completing the square. Right? So during the course of the weekend, it's a long weekend, so only time to just relax and talk and watch TV and all stuff. You need to set aside some time to go over all your maths. Okay? The math control is coming very soon. When are you writing? You know when you're writing that? Best of all, it's not very far. Okay? It's not very far. It's actually less than 2 weeks from now. Right? And the method of completing the square is there in your head. You will not run away from it. So don't come on the 1st of April without knowing how to complete the square. Be aware of it. Okay? Then let's do the same question. We are going to use the quadratic formula. Right? For those of you who are not in the lesson that I did on Tuesday, this will help you. So I'm going to do the same question, and you must get the same answer that we got by completing the square. So that's 2x squared plus 3x minus 8. Okay? It's 2x squared plus 3x minus 8. Okay? If I want to use the quadratic formula, I need to know that this equation is of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0. If the equation is not in the general form, you have to rearrange the terms until you create a quadratic equation of the form ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay? Then write down a quadratic formula. X equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay? That's the quadratic formula. And this formula is very important in maths. If you are going to carry on with mathematics, that formula is very, very important. There are topics that we are going to do later on where the knowledge of quadratic equation is extremely important. Yes.
So in the test, are we going to specify each question?
Okay. There are some cases where it can be specified that by completing the square solve the equation. If it's not specified, then you can use any method. Okay? Be aware of it. Okay, but if it's not specified and it says leave the answer to 2 decimal places, I suggest that you use the quadratic formula because that's the easiest. Right? And not all trinomials can be factorized. This trinomial that we have there cannot be factorized. Hence, you cannot solve this quadratic equation by factorization. You have to use completing the square or the quadratic formula. I'll show you how to use the calculator as well to do it. But this calculator, you cannot do it. Unfortunately. Okay, so let's move on. Now check this. Then you compare the given equation, right, with the general form. The coefficient of, okay, before I write this, let's not talk about the discriminant. I'm going to have to do a lesson next week on nature of roots. That's a lesson on its own. Maybe 1 or 2 lessons. Okay? So let's not talk about nature of roots. Well, that's a lesson on its own. For you to understand the concept of nature of roots, you must have been able to understand the quadratic formula first. Okay, so my A is going to be equal to the coefficient of x squared there, that's a 2. My B is the coefficient of x there, that's a 3. My C is the constant term there, that's minus 8. And then you substitute those 3 values into the formula. Always remember that this formula here has a minus in front of the B. That's very, very important. Okay? If you don't take into account that minus there, it can mess up your answers. So you need to know that the minus there is always there in the formula. Right? So let me solve now. So x is going to be equal to minus b. Fortunately, my b is positive, so I'll write this minus 3 plus or minus. If the b was negative, then you must put it inside brackets. If the b was negative. So plus or minus the square root of b squared, that's 3 squared minus 4 times a. The a is a 2. And the c is negative 8. Now, from experience, you find that if c or a is negative, the sign here will change to a plus. So 2 times 2 will give me a 4. You see that this 4 means that it's a denominator. Do you see that the 4 is a denominator? Yeah, the same 4 is this one here. See this 4 that I was getting here? This 4. That's how the 4 comes out. You use the quadratic formula. So that 4 is coming, which means I'm on track. The denominator is 4. Then, this minus 3, I also have it here. See this? You see that? The same minus 3 that I got by computing the square is also appearing in the quadratic formula. Right? I'll tell you the reason why at the end. And so this becomes minus 3 plus or minus the square root of, this is the 9, right? There's a minus here, there's a minus there. Now I can simplify this. 8 times 8 is 64, but there's a plus there. I'll get 64 plus 9, then I'll get 73 inside there. And that will be that. Then if I go to the next page, okay, you follow me? I simplified what's inside there. It's not difficult to do it. It's not difficult to do it. If either A, B, or C is negative, you have to put it inside brackets. Yes?
So you can just go a bit slower how you simplify 3 squared minus 4.
3 squared is 9. Minus 4 times 2 is minus 8. Minus 8 times minus 8 gives you a positive 64. So you end up having 9 plus 64. That will give you 73. Alright, so let me move on to the next page. So we have got the answer already. So this will be x equal to minus 3 plus the square root of 73 all over 4, or x equal to minus 3 minus the square root of 73 all over 4. Right? And then just write our answers. We have got them already. Minus, we've got 1,39. 1,39, and the other one is equal to minus 2,89. And then you're done.
So when you take the you substitute it, you said if the 3 was a negative, you would put negative and then minus 4 brackets.
Yes.
Wouldn't that somehow to be negative 3 anyway?
No.
Minus 3.
It will be minus, open bracket, minus 3 squared. Okay? No, it's not squared, rather.
No, just
like this. The answer becomes a positive 3.
So in the end, so then notice in this case now.
This would become a positive 3 if the b and if the b was negative.
So once you substitute everything, you just work out.
Yes, you've done the basics of maths from the law of maths. Don't forget that you are in the 4th year of high school. Don't forget that. You have spent 3 years doing maths in high school. And all the skills that you've acquired for this subject, you need those skills from grade 8 up to 10. You need those skills. Okay. I cannot treat you like you are, like for example, you are a mother, you don't give breastfeed to a 4-year-old child. Okay? No mother, certainly nowadays, there's no mother who wants to breastfeed the child who has been born today. There are some mothers who don't want it. Do you know that? You understand what I'm trying to say? Yeah. There are some mothers who don't even want to breastfeed a child who has just been born. There are some mothers who are like that. Because they don't want their breast to end up changing all the time. Okay, then just imagine now you have to breastfeed someone who can walk a van. Imagine. Stop that.
So this one video, this model is basically, and then people just come and make sense of the algorithm. And you like, you set it here, and then you take a second, and then 2 minutes later, you're going more.
Yeah, like this, I will do. All right. Any question? Any question?
Why can't you factorize this question?
That's your homework. That's your homework.